Hey everyone, two numbers, 144 years, 8 months. That is the gap between the longest corporate relationship in New Jersey history and the shortest. ExxonMobil. Founded in New Jersey in 1882 as Standard Oil, survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, every economic crisis this country has ever faced. Gone. Samsung Electronics America. Opened a brand new North American headquarters in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey in September 2025, with a ribbon-cutting ceremony, state officials applauding, local politicians calling it a symbol of New Jersey's future. 8 months later, gone. Same state, same tax rate, same regulatory environment, 2 completely different timelines. One identical conclusion. By the end of this video, you are going to understand the specific mechanism that is turning New Jersey into the most expensive place in America to run a company. You are going to see the number that the state's own business association called a death trend. You are going to understand why Samsung's exit is actually more alarming than ExxonMobil's, and why the financial press completely missed the reason. And there is a name I want you to remember, Michelle Sikirka. She runs the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. What she said publicly the morning Samsung's announcement dropped should be on the front page of every newspaper in this country. We are going to read it together in about 10 minutes. Pull up the calendar. Because the sequence of events here tells the whole story. September 2025. Samsung Electronics America holds a grand opening ceremony for its brand new North American headquarters in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. This is not a renovation of an existing space. This is a purpose-built, freshly constructed corporate campus. State officials attend. Local politicians speak. The narrative is clear. Samsung is doubling down on New Jersey, investing in the region, committing to the state's future. The cameras roll. Everyone smiles. May 29, 2026. 8 months later. Samsung sends an internal notification to its approximately 1,000 New Jersey employees. The message is direct. The company is relocating its United States headquarters to its existing campus in Plano, Texas, Legacy Central, by the end of 2026. The move is happening. The timeline is set. And every one of those 1,000 employees now faces a choice that no amount of planning can prepare you for. Uproot your life and follow the company to Texas, or lose the job you have built your career around. As of the morning the announcement became public, there was no formal WARN Act filing, the worker adjustment and retraining notification that companies are legally required to submit when conducting mass layoffs, in New Jersey's official system. Which means the employees learned about the move before the state's own legal notification mechanism caught up. That is how fast this happened. That is how little warning there was. Now let's talk about why. Because Samsung did not wake up one morning and decide to abandon a brand new headquarters on a whim. The math had been running long before the ribbon-cutting ceremony. And the math points in one direction. New Jersey currently has the highest corporate income tax rate in the United States, 11.5%. Not near the top. Not tied for the top. The actual top. The national median corporate tax rate is 6.5%. Pennsylvania, which shares a border with New Jersey, is actively cutting its rate toward 4.99%. And Texas has no corporate income tax at all, 0. When you are paying 11.5% and your competitor across the border is paying 0, that differential does not show up in one quarter. It compounds. Year after year after year. And at some point, for some company, the math tips past the point of tolerance. For Samsung, that tipping point came with a very specific strategic calculation. The company already has a massive semiconductor manufacturing presence in Texas. Its chip fabrication facility in Austin has been operating for years. And right now in Taylor, Texas, Samsung is in the final stages of completing a next-generation foundry. A $37 billion investment backed by $4.7 billion in Federal CHIPS Act funding. That facility will produce 5G and artificial intelligence chips. It will create more than 1,800 direct high-technology jobs in its first decade. And it is located in Texas. Think about what that means for corporate decision-making. You are the leadership team of Samsung Electronics America. Your most critical, most capital-intensive, most strategically important manufacturing operation in the United States is in Texas. Your corporate headquarters, the place where the executives who oversee that operation sit every day, is in New Jersey. You are paying the highest corporate tax rate in the country to maintain a headquarters that is thousands of miles away from the facility that actually matters. And the state you are paying that tax to just watched its Fortune 500 company count drop from 22 in 2018 to 15 in 2025. The math is not complicated. Moving the headquarters to Plano, Texas, where Samsung already operates a campus, where AT&T has relocated, where Tech Mahindra and Sally Beauty and KFC have all established operations, where a genuine corporate network effect is building in real time, is not a dramatic statement. It is arithmetic. But here's what makes Samsung's exit different from ExxonMobil's. And this is the part the financial press missed entirely. ExxonMobil's departure was the culmination of a 37-year slow exit. The company moved its actual operational headquarters to Texas back in 1989. It closed its Clinton, New Jersey research campus and moved those jobs to Houston years ago. By the time the shareholders voted in May 2026 to officially re-domicile the legal entity from New Jersey to Texas, 75% of ExxonMobil's American workforce was already in Texas. The May 2026 vote was not a departure. It was a formality. It was the last legal thread being cut after everything else had already left. Samsung is the opposite. Samsung built something new. Samsung made a visible, public, celebrated commitment to New Jersey in September 2025. And then 8 months later, Samsung walked away from that commitment. That is not a slow exit. That is a company running the numbers on a brand new facility and concluding that even a fresh start in New Jersey is not worth the ongoing cost of being in New Jersey. That is the signal that should terrify every business development official in the state. Because it means the problem is not legacy costs or old infrastructure or outdated facilities that have become too expensive to maintain. The problem is the environment itself. The baseline cost of operating in New Jersey has become so structurally uncompetitive that a company will abandon a building it just finished constructing rather than stay in it. Now I want to read you what Michelle Sikurka said. She is the president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. This is not a political organization. It is not a think tank with an ideological agenda. It is the trade group that represents the businesses that operate in New Jersey and pay New Jersey's taxes and employ New Jersey's workers. When Samsung's announcement dropped, Sikurka did not hedge. She did not offer diplomatic language about complex business decisions. She said the quiet part out loud. She called New Jersey's tax and regulatory climate the direct cause of Samsung's exit. She pointed to the Fortune 500 count, 22 companies in 2018, 15 companies in 2025. And she used a phrase that should be printed on the wall of every office in Trenton. She called it a death trend. Not a challenge, not a concern, not an area requiring attention. A death trend. That is the language the state's own business community is using to describe what is happening to New Jersey's corporate base. Let's talk about the human cost. Because behind every corporate filing and every tax rate comparison, there are real people making impossible decisions. There are approximately 1,000 Samsung employees in New Jersey right now who have been told their headquarters is moving to Texas by the end of the year. Some of them have been with the company for a decade. Some of them bought houses in New Jersey on the assumption that Samsung was a New Jersey institution, an assumption that seemed completely reasonable as recently as September 2025, when Samsung was cutting ribbons on its new campus. Some of them have spouses with careers rooted in the region, children in schools, parents nearby, lives built around a geography that is now, suddenly, the wrong geography. And for every Samsung employee making that calculation, there are dozens of people who never worked for Samsung at all, but whose economic lives depended on the company's presence. The lunch spots that filled up with Samsung employees every afternoon. The dry cleaners and coffee shops and parking facilities that built their business models around the foot traffic a corporate campus generates. None of these people appear in a WARN Act filing. None of them get severance. They just lose the customers and figure out what comes next. Now let's zoom out to the structural picture. Because Samsung and ExxonMobil are not anomalies. They are data points in a pattern that the state's own numbers confirm. New Jersey has ranked either dead last or second to dead last in the Tax Foundation's State Business Tax Competitiveness Index every single year since 2014. Every year. For more than a decade. The state has the highest corporate income tax in America. It has the highest property taxes per capita in the nation. The average New Jersey homeowner pays nearly $9,000 a year. It has regulatory permitting processes that move significantly slower than competing states. And in 2022, the state sued ExxonMobil and 5 other major oil companies for billions of dollars in climate change damages, a lawsuit that was ultimately dismissed with prejudice in February 2025, but not before sending a very clear message to every large corporation operating in the state about the relationship between the state government and the private sector. Texas, meanwhile, has spent years building the infrastructure to receive exactly the companies New Jersey is pushing out. The Texas Business Court, established in September 2025, handles complex corporate disputes efficiently and provides legal protections for board members that do not exist in most other states. Senate Bill 1057, passed in 2025, makes it harder for minority shareholders to sue companies incorporated in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott has been explicit about the strategy. Texas is building a legal and regulatory environment where companies can operate without the threat of being litigated into submission by the government they are paying taxes to. The result is a Fortune 500 scoreboard that tells the whole story. Texas now hosts 57 Fortune 500 companies. California, once the undisputed leader, has fallen behind. And New Jersey, which had 22 Fortune 500 companies as recently as 2018, is down to 15 and counting. Here is what the death spiral looks like from inside a state budget office. Companies leave. The corporate tax base shrinks. The state faces a revenue shortfall. The political response, because this is the response that has come every time in New Jersey, is to maintain or increase the tax rates on the companies that remain, in order to make up the revenue from the ones that left, which makes staying in New Jersey even more expensive for the companies that are still there, which accelerates the next round of departures, which creates the next shortfall, which triggers the next rate defense, round and round. That is not a projection. That is the documented history of New Jersey's business tax policy for the past decade. Governor Sherrill took office in January 2026, inheriting a $3 billion structural budget deficit, and a state where 30% of residents were already giving her an F on taxes and affordability before she had made a single decision. She has promised to streamline permitting and reduce regulatory barriers. Promises are not policy, and the structural problems that drove ExxonMobil out over 37 years and Samsung out in 8 months were not created by her administration. But they are her problem now, and the window for solving them is narrowing with every ribbon-cutting ceremony that turns into a moving truck 8 months later. So here is where New Jersey stands. The highest corporate tax rate in America. The worst business tax competitiveness ranking in America for more than a decade. A Fortune 500 company count that has dropped by 32% in 7 years. A $3 billion structural deficit. And now, in the same month, the departure of a 144-year legal resident and an 8-month-old headquarters that was supposed to be a symbol of the state's future. The receipts are public. The filings are documented. The trend line does not require interpretation. And Michelle Sikirka already gave it a name. If you want to know which New Jersey company is next, and based on the pattern of corporate filings, lease terminations, and workforce relocations happening right now in the state, there is a specific name that keeps appearing in the documents. Subscribe before you scroll. The next video is the case file. The paperwork is already public, and by the time the ribbon-cutting ceremony happens somewhere in Texas, you will already know whose name is on the building. The math is not complicated. It just keeps running.